StormWatch number 0, written by Peter Milligan, art by Will Conrad. This is the kind of origin story for the whole team, but also Jenny Quantum, Jenny Sparks, Jenny whatever. So we open up at StormWatch HQ, and the entire team is looking at some sort of weird, gross fly alien thing, and they're not able to make heads or tails of it. They have no idea what's going on. But then we cut over to Jenny Quantum, who is in her room just playing some sort of game. And she is approached by a shadowy figure who turns out to be Adam 1, who is the leader of Stormwatch, who died in like issue 5. And he just shows back up out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, it's me." And she's like, "Oh, hey, where have you been?" And he's like, "It's a long story. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a story. Do you remember how I pulled you out of that orphanage when you were a kid?" And she's like, "Yeah, and you brought me here to my new family." And he's like, "Right, but that means you can trust me, right? You know I'm on your side." And she's like, "I guess." So then he opens up some weird little portal viewing thing in order to show her the century babies of past. So we get the first century baby of Princess Janine in 1013, where she has all the powers of linear geometry, because that's what they were figuring out in that century. And we see that she's really good with like an abacus, and Adam 1, who at this point is extremely old looking because he ages backwards, is there telling her of her fate, how she is a century baby. And she's like, "Okay, and he's like, "Well, there's this team. It's called the Demon Knights," which is a totally different book, but regardless, they fight horrors from afar and shadowy threats and whatnot, but they do it all in secret. And we would like you to join because you are so powerful. And she's like, "I don't want to." And he's like, "All right, fair enough." But then her father and mother, who are king and queen of their land, are assassinated, and then evil dolphins in mech suits come out of the ocean and attack because they're fed up with humanity. And at that point, she's like, "All right, guess I have nothing to lose." And she joins in the Demon Knights, which currently features Etrigan, Shining Knight, and Vandal Savage. So still the same team that we see in that book. But regardless, cut back to the present. Adam 1's like, "Yeah, that's me. I age backwards. I don't know if I ever really told you that. But yeah, here's the thing. Everyone here had a purpose. And she trusted the power inside her, which again, at that point was just geometry in order to do what she needed to do." And then we then cut forward to later on in her life, because this has to have some sort of message to it. And Adam 1 is seeing terrible visions of like awful things that will happen to the team, and particularly Janine. And we see that years pass, and she's going on crusades where she's killing just literally everybody because she has completely overinflated her ego as to what she's able to do. And Adam shows up and tries to warn her, like, "Hey, you might want to stop doing that." And she's like, "Screw you," tries to attack him. Doesn't work out, and it turns out that Adam 1 is actually Merlin, which I think I made that comparison before, but regardless, they really like confirm it here. So then the Shadow Lords are apparently watching her do this. They get sick of her crap, and they send her into the Shadow Realm or whatever. And so Jenny takes from it like, "Okay, yeah, I get it. Don't get too big for my boots." Like, "Yeah, all right, anything else?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to show you a different one." And it was 300 years later, another century baby. She works in a monastery, and she is able to access her powers via prayer. So that's kind of the thing they're doing right now. And at this point, Adam 1 has aged down a little bit, and they get into a little bit of a romantic relationship, to which Jenny Quantum gags at because she thinks that's gross. And he's like, "You'll understand when you're older." So at that point, though, a giant red storm opens up over the city of Walpurgis in southern Germany. And out of it comes the Daemonites, everyone's favorite Daemonites. And they show up here, and the Demon Knights knew all about the Daemon Knights, and this is going to get very confusing very quickly, but they just basically worked to fight against them as they tried to take over this village, and there was evidence of like human experimentation and stuff like that. The people prayed for someone to show up, and the Demon Knights of that era, because they do rotate out, came forward and fought against the Demon Knights and fought them back. Sorry, the Daemon Knights. This is very confusing. So at this point, they were like, okay, but they will come back. They are going to come back again. And they're going to come in the same sort of way, in a red storm. So we must sit here and watch for that storm. StormWatch. Get it? Anyway, so at that point, Jenny's hearing some sort of commotion outside, and she's like, what's going on out there? It sounds like people are fighting. And she looks on one of the monitors and sees Midnighter and Apollo are just beating the ever-loving crap out of each other. Jack Hawksmore's just screaming in the background. And she's like, oh, I have to do something. I have to stop them. And Adam's like, hey, you got to trust me. I just wanted to show you 2 more Century babies, okay? And then I'll let you go. I'll let you do what you need to do. And so he shows her the one that came in the 19th century, the 1800s, named Jenny Freedom. She escaped from a slave plantation, and she used light and steam as her powers, and she had undying courage to overcome the odds. And then there was the one that came directly before her, Jenny Sparks, who used the power of electricity in order to fulfill her role in destiny. And her thing was that she knew how to kick some ass. So finally Adam's done showing, and he's like, okay, I'm done. By the way, nobody's killing anybody. Like, I just put that all into your head. But here's the thing. I have visions that the team is going to turn on each other, and they're all going to kill each other. And I think you're the only one who's able to stop that. So when the time comes, be ready for that, because it's definitely going to come in your lifetime. Okay? And then he shows another portal showing all the superheroes in the area. And he's like, here's the thing. StormWatch and Demon Knights in years past, they were the only thing that was going on. They were able to do whatever because nobody else was interfering. But now we've got superheroes, and they're constantly interfering. And that makes stuff really, really complicated. So just deal with it and do your best in order to fight against the threat when it shows up. And Jenny's like, okay, well, I guess I can do that. It doesn't sound fair to me, but whatever. And at that point, Adam 1 disappears, and Jenny walks back out into the main room where everybody is and is like, hey, is everybody okay out here? And they're all still looking at the fly monster. And they're like, oh, hey, Jenny, what have you been up to? She's like, oh, I was just watching a TV show. It's really sad because everyone's going to die at the end. And that's it. A lot of lore laid down. I don't think we've ever established that the Demon Knights led into Stormwatch. That's news to me. And then the entire Jenny thing. This is a good way of explaining exactly what a Century Baby is to someone who didn't quite understand like what the powers specifically are. It looks like all of them had the same sort of power set, though. Like this weird waving your hands and then stuff happens. But I don't know. It worked. It was a solid issue throughout. Overall, I'd say 7.5, mainly because it does feel like just here's exposition for the sake of exposition. And rather than just doing an issue set at an earlier time, they decided to do the thing of like, oh, heed these lessons that I'm sure. Scrooge, look upon your past and tremble. Like that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm only going to give it like a 7.5 for that. But overall, still an enjoyable issue.